Every now and then, chat, we need to blow off steam. Gacha games have us pent up, especially when we lose our 50-50s. We're just shy of our end game scores. You know, we don't get the drive disc rolls that we want. Then we get a little pent up anger. What better way to unleash that anger than upon the Prydwen tier list? Welcome everybody to the 3.1 anniversary Prydwen tier list review. I'm already seeing some very interesting things that we do have to address. And at the end of the day, we use the Prydwen tier list as the table setter. Right? They set the table for discussion, and we get to further discuss the actual characters' placements as well as their impact on the game, their value as a character from our template here. And that's what we usually like to do with the Prydwen tier list. So let's take a look at some of our new characters and even some of the old characters that have moved up or down and see if Prydwen knows what they're talking about. Let's take a look at our initial inspection here. And off the top of the dome, Jshoea is the only tier 0 crit DPS character amongst the attackers and the ruptures. At this point in time, and again, this is of course including that she does have an Ether Veil support. If she does not have an Ether Veil support, you're kind of cooked. You are low-key a little cooked. But outside of that, if you do have an Ether Veil support, then you're clearly rinsing content. You're just whoosh, that's a given 3-star right there. All right, you should be clearing content with Jshoea. She is tier 0 by far none. That makes sense. For Jshoea singularly, she remains at the peak. Then let's move down the list here. We got Banny Boy, Billis, the Snake, Aura Farmer, Feet, the Octopus, and Yushen. Now, Yushen being in tier 0.5 is understandable. A lot of these characters being in tier point, why is tier 0.5 so populated, bro? They should just be in tier 1. Shouldn't tier 0.5 be like, this is the gatekeeper fringe units from tier 0? Why are there so many gatekeep units? There should only be like 1 or 2 rupture units up here. There should only be 1 or 2 attack units up here. We need a 0.75 tier. Yeah, why are there so many units in the tier 0.5? This tier should be reserved for characters that are fringe tier 0, and then leave the tier 1 to like almost all the characters here. And who those characters are, I would put Seed in tier 1, I would put Yidhari definitely in tier 1, and Banya in tier 1 with the expert tag. Cecilia with the partner tag, I guess makes sense in 0.5, but for now, I would also slide down to tier 1. I would leave Billy and Yushen up here. They are fringe units. They're incredibly strong. They can even clear attacker content with their respective class, with their respective element, excuse me. And overall, they are still just very, very impactful, even though there's not a lot of rupture content to go around these days. Still, they can help clear content when need be, okay? Then I would push some of these units down from tier 1 to tier 1.5. Nekomata to tier 1? That actually makes sense. And we'll talk about it in a little bit. Soldier moves down to 1.5. I don't even know why the hell she's here. Yeah, she's partnered with Norma, but she's still 1.5 to be honest. Orphe, I'll keep her at tier 1. Respectable. All these other units, Harmasa with the potential. Yup. Sambi with the potential. Pretty good. Eve barely is hanging on. Not against the Seed and these other units, which I would expect to move down from 0.5 because again, this tier is too populated. Next, let's take a look at our Anomaly agents because this is where we see the biggest shakeup. Let's start off with the matter of fact that we have now 4 units in tier 0 from our previous 1 unit. And clearly a bunch of other units that have moved up in the tiers purely because of the presence of one Remiel. It's summertime, folks, and our favorite gacha games are coming out with heater after heater. And if you need to get those characters like I do, well, you gotta join us and top up with Aniba. Aniba is one of the few Hoyo approved and Jshoea approved top up sites that firstly is safe and is easy to use. All we have to do is put in our UID region, select your package, and with multiple payment methods, they make the swiping too easy. And the savings are pretty great too, as you can get up to 60% cash back. Just make sure to check your Aniba wallet for said cash back, and that'll be able to go towards more purchases, because Lord knows we need those extra gems and monthly passes to secure them all. So make sure to sign up to Aniba down below and join myself and the rest of the community. And thanks to Aniba for supporting the channel. Arya and Promea are on fraud watch. We'll talk about it when we take a look at the change logs. But they are still here in tier 0 from Prydwen's estimations. Valina, rightfully so, moves up to tier 0. The Yabi, still here in 0.5, makes sense. Bernice gets her dew flowers. moves up to tier 0.5. Alice, still incredibly strong. For a season 2 frontliner, on-field anomaly DPS, 0.5 is respectable. Then we have Jane Doe, Piper, who both of them get compared to at, her base level, Piper's max level. It makes sense. Yanagi's still here, Vivian's still a great option, and Grace moving up from 1.5, I believe, to tier 1. Her potentials, her pacing with some of these other characters, especially with Valina, incredibly strong. So a lot of these units pushing up, and then you could say, depending on the content and depending on the matchup, Arya is going to be up here, could be down here, Premier could be up here, could be down here, depending. But these units paired with literally, the Yuzahas, the Nongongs, the Remiels, the Valinas of the world, these are at tier 0 units. I'm very curious to see why they're watch list down. Next, the support category. We have the trio of stunners and we have the trio of supports. We have the best attacker supports who can also flex into Anomaly. We have the best Anomaly support who is right now behind Remiel. And now we have the singular Rupture support, still always going to be here, still valuable. Then we have our 3 best modern day stunners. Dialin, Nongong, Norma. This is no question. Norma again. Instead of her buffing units like Dialin does, she just outputs damage. That's why Norma is so incredibly impactful. And the pace at which they are able to stun is just faster than any of the older units. It just is what it is. Let's talk about some of the other elephants in the room. Namely that Jufufu and Trigger move down and Rina moves to 0.5 with her potential buffs. Now, I think Rina deserves it. The attack and pen bonuses that you get are incredibly strong, especially with her potential. Really, really solid. And then if you have more Mindscapes, it even just gets that much better. And you don't even need technically the M1 to be able to upkeep the puppets anymore, which is great, especially the defense. And we haven't even factored in defense. Defense is not a scaling stat that any of these units use except for Ben DPS. Wait till we come out with some of our defense scaling offensive units and we'll see where Rina lies then. I'll be very intrigued to see where she lies because that is her purpose, to be a standard character to bridge the gap towards that small era. I don't know how big this meta is going to be, but we are moving towards a place where we have some defense scaling characters, which is going to be very interesting. Lighter and Lycon, they've always generally been down here. They're still pretty good units, but again, definitely not as impactful comparatively from the buffs and the tempo of these units that they can provide towards some of our more modern day characters. Chingus Pingus, 1.5. The Kaku paired with Miyabi, which I'll be honest, Miyabi doesn't even want her anymore. We have moved away so far from mono ice because the devs are just so deathly afraid of mono ice that Sokaku doesn't even pair with Miyabi anymore. Miyabi pairs with literally any other disorder and or other like hyper carry content and or whatever content. Yes. The death of mono ice. They really pivoted away from it. Sokaku honestly barely is even 1.5. I would put her in tier 2 because it doesn't crack it anymore, man. The content has been pushing down mono ice for incredibly long. Mono ice was good. Not anymore is what it is. Then tier 2, Caesar, Kaleda. I would love to see these units potential buffed. We saw, literally Rina, Nekomata get buffed. I would love to see Kaleda get buffed at some point. That's all I have to say about these units so far. Let's take a look at the changelogs. I've got my initial scouting done so far. I'm not going to be too hypercritical until we check out the changelogs. Remiel. As expected, Remiel's performance lives up to her title of being the original Void Hunter the original. Refringe is a direct unsaturated buff to anomalies and she offers the highest attack buff in the game at base. Good Day's application increased the team's anomaly buildup and also works as a DPS. Sub DPS, by the way, with Luminize hitting especially hard on gear teams. That said, she isn't perfect and given the way her kit works, isn't all that synergistic with most anomaly agents. Are you dumb? She has long animations, making her combos difficult to manage and disorder teams to struggle with her effectively. Brother, have you seen Alice? Alice destroys content. What are you talking about? She's off field most of the time anyways. Yeah. What is we talking about? And this, remind you, chat, ever since, I forget, was it like 2.5 or something like that? 2.4, 2.3, 2.5, whatever. They have shifted the tier list to judge the S-rank characters with their signatures. This is Remiel with her signature. There's a desire for triple Anomaly teams, which makes the lack of Jshoea's additional buff buildup accurately felt amongst the high Anomaly thresholds of recent enemies. Despite all this, she is still completely dominating the endgame, putting Remiel, Valina, and quite literally any other Anomaly agent in the team, and she easily exceeds past scores. Yeah, but don't worry, she isn't synergistic with most Anomaly agents. Bro, it's like they put two different editors on the same thing. You say one sentence here, you say another sentence here. Now, I get it. Technically, there is nuance to this. Just because you get high scores doesn't mean there is pure synergy. But what the f are we talking about here, bro? What does this mean, bro? What do you mean? My God, when you nod your head yes, but you want to say no, what do you mean? Prydwen, please proofread this shit. All right, me making mistakes, but I'm a dumb streamer. Proofread, please. Even some disorder-based teams are able to do better than before. Even some, the pure damage from Remiel makes it better than before. Like 95% of teams are better with Remiel now. Yes, you can say, oh yeah, but the synergy of the disorder, like the flow of the thing, whatever. No, it is the damage of it. The pure score, the pure output of the team is just better. Yes, it might not be as quote-unquote optimal for the disorder flow, but that's besides the point. They just do better. What are we talking about here? So many of the previous Void Hunter releases, Remiel redefines the meta to the point that many other Anomaly carries can seem like accessory to her teams rather than being the drivers behind them. Yes, you need to build around Remiel. That is the point. So that is a fair argument. Remiel is the core. You don't tack on Remiel to help other people. You build around Remiel. And you fit these Anomaly units for Remiel. That is the point. As a result, she debuts in Tier 0, likely to become a core unit to the best teams in her category. Let's move on to, hopefully a more positive note, Nekomata to Tier 1. Nekomata has gone from what many saw as a zero value 50-50 failure to being better than many previous limited attackers in strength. And again, this is pure strength. Are we talking matchups? Maybe not, because there might not be as much physical attack content, which, you know, again, technically we do have content because of it due to Guang. So kind of riding on the coattails of Guang's type charting, Nekomata also really does well. Not only has she gotten pretty absurd multipliers on her skills, which she does with her potentials, but she also gets M1 force back attacks by default and gets much longer durations on the core buff passive, which allows itself to be much stronger. And again, I understand that they were talking about extra mindscapes when this tier list is supposed to be technically for a M0 W1, understandable, but a lot of people do have dupes of Nekomata, up to the point where they could even have M2, M4, M6. M4 giving the crit rate buff, M6 giving the crit damage buff. Like, these are really actually good mindscapes and very synergistic to now Nekomata's increased potential, allowing you to offset the crit rate needs, especially with that M4, to go into more just damage itself. It is really good. Nekomata shooting up to Tier 1. I'm very happy with Nekomata's buffs. Next, we go from a layup to doing like a 360, like, you know, between the leg, 3-point shot. I don't know what the hell we're doing here. We're just chucking up things at this point. Ahri and Promea to a watch list down. Both of these agents have been two dominant carries in the Anomaly meta as of late, benefiting not only from an extended period of favorable enemy encounters, but also synergizing well with Valina and recent win Anomaly shelling. After Remiel's release, neither is doing any worse than before. Rather, they're doing better, with Ahri in particular seeing a significant uplift. All other anomalies, however, also perform far better than before, with Valina and Remiel together, normalizing Anomaly as a whole in such a way that almost every single unit has competitive performance. In this context, it's worth evaluating if Ahri and Promea are uniquely strong agents suited to be a Tier 0 alongside Remiel, or if they're closer to the rest of the Anomaly cast in their offering. While these two do appear to be the best drivers for Remi teams, the question is whether these two are significant ahead of others, that they be indispensable picks for the Tier 0 level performance. As a result, we're watchlisting them both down to evaluate if they're deserving of the Tier 0 placement or if they're more in line with the rest of the cast. Now, here's the thing. This line of reasoning technically isn't that wrong. But what happens if you have two pieces of Anomaly content, like you have with Gertabulu and the Dead End Butcher? You're going to use Ahri on one side, and you're going to use Promea on the other side. So what are we talking about here? Who is the Tier 0 pick right now for Gertabulu? It's Ahri and or Promea. Who is the Tier 0 pick if you are taking away that Remy pick into Gurdabulu, it's probably Promea Nongong, Arya Nongong. These units are still incredibly strong. And there are worlds and situations where you're not using Remiel. So I don't know why we need to watch them specifically for Remiel, because Remiel is only one character. And there's literally so many other pieces of content where you are forced to use, or not forced to use, but you are using Remiel on one piece of content, and then you're using the other Anomaly characters on 2 and 3. Shiryu Defense, you're using another Anomaly team on 2 and 3. You're using the Angels team on that 3rd slot. Yes, Remiel is incredibly impactful. This is supposed to be a deadly assault and Shiryu Defense tier list. There are multiple ways and multiple reasons to use these characters, not just with Remiel. These units are incredibly strong when you remove that context. Next, let's quickly go through some of the other units that I'm like, okay, these are kind of, whatever. Valina to tier 0. This is an indispensable pick for Remy teams. This is Valina. She is one of the best teammates for Anomaly characters outside of Disorder teams, just across the board. She's incredible. Boom, done. That's all we need to say. And she has days paired with Remiel's Upton days. They're able to get 3 stuns very comfortably. Very good. Alice, watch this down. Alice previous has been doing well, especially with the recent environment. Hasn't been favoring her, but because of Remiel teams, this makes sense. She stays in 0.5 for now, but she's wallished down. I get it. Understandable. Bernice, 1 to 0.5. Bernice has gone from latch to sub DPS to one of the strongest main DPSs to run alongside Valina. Now, I don't know why you consider it a main DPS. She's an off-field DPS, so okay. She's recently take the lead on the scores amongst the tier 1 agents and is often matching or exceeding those of the 0.5 cast. She is really good. She is really good. She pushes out anomalies very quickly. She does her blooms very consistently. This is great stuff right here. What we're seeing from Bernice with her pacing with Remiel is just very, very, very clean. Again, the only reason why she isn't like crazy preferred is because there's just no fire anomaly content, right? So doing incredibly well, even with the lack of general fire weak anomalies, there's just no fire anomaly content because like she's such a unique case. Some are even fire resist, exactly. So that's the only reason why you can knock off Bernice. But she's doing really well. I'm very, very proud of Bernice. And we've talked about this. We've talked about this for months. I told you guys in 2.8, look out for Bernice. Look out for Bernice. She's coming. So I'm very glad to see that she's getting her flowers. Grace, watch this up. Yes. Amazing pacing alongside Bernice. Amazing pacing alongside Remiel. Excuse me, Valina. And then in Remiel teams, Grace just amazing. She's doing really, really well. Zhao, watch this down. Although we contemplate moving Zhao down to tier 1, the actual buff value she provides with the signature in the Bunny in Wonderland is still at least in par with Astra. Zhao may be a defense character. She lacks additional ultimates, but has better days build and makes it easier decibel management. It's unfair to move her down. Rina's potential unlock also offers comparable buffs value to Astra and Zhao, so we decided to keep her all the generalist supports in the tier 0.5. This makes sense, right? If they are offering very similar things, there's no reason to keep them or to push her down, push her up, right? You can complain all you want. Oh, Josh, why there's so many freaking supports in this tier? They offer very similar things. They offer very similar outputs. Dylan and Norma, they just offer in different ways. And they give you their bonuses. They give you their offerings in different ways, but they are very, very similar characters, right? These characters are very, very similar, right? Yeah, you get an extra chain, you get some healing, blah, 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 but you get pen buff, you get attack buff, you just get it in different ways. Yes, there's a difference between Rina versus these two, sure, but very, very similar in the tier. Understandable. Rina sees the largest single jump in the tier list placement ever. With her potential unlock taking the difficulty of use of the M1 reliance niche agents to one of the better generalist supports. This is true. Pen ratio has always been a strong buff at the attack, as the high levels of attack and damage saturation means often the best D5, and depending on the setup remains as such, even when conflicting with defense ignore. Having good uptime wasn't easy, and it wasn't able to keep up with the combined attack and damage bonuses from other agents. Now these issues have been addressed, and Drusilla and Estella, the puppets, are constantly attacking enemies, so Rina does not have to have an easy uptime on her core passive buff, and she has a much better maintenance on her Weeping Cradle damage buff, especially for those who have potentials or overworks on the Weeping Cradle. Incredibly good. Her buffs is now extended beyond the pen ratio, and also including the buff to flat attack and defense, the former of which has made her comparable to agents like Astra and Zhao, correct? These are even quality of life changes at like faster heavy attacks on the X special as combined means, while Rina not being able to beat out Astra of course. M6 has been recorded to be better than Remiel for electric anomaly teams. Yes, Rina M6 is better than Remiel for electric anomaly teams. Again, that's only because of Rina M6 Mindscape. For those who don't know that, let's take a look at the Mindscapes real quick. EX special chains or ults gives squad electric damage 15% damage bonus. So far, the potential buffs of Rina and Nekomata really good. I cannot necessarily say the same for Jane Doe. Jane Doe is a little bit more just quality of life, just chiller play. She gets a little bit of bonus. Jane didn't really need that much help. Let's talk about my overall overarching thoughts on this tier list. In the tier 0, I feel it is fair to gatekeep the other crit DPSs out of tier 0. Yeshin Guang, paired with an Ether Veil character, again, paired with Ether Veil, is in a tier of her own. It is just the matter of fact. These other units are quite strong, but the matter of fact is that because she's honed edge, she can clear both attack and rupture content. She belongs in this tier. Her output is strong. Her coverage is strong. Done and done. Next, the Anomaly. Remiel deserves this. Valina, tier 0, deserves it. These watch lists down, I feel as though are undeserved because, again, not everything revolves around Remiel. Yes, you could say that, oh, Remiel clears one piece of content, but what about the other content? Just because one team is performing extremely well, it doesn't mean these units are devoid of their own rankings independent of this. They deserve tier 0. Tier 1's fine. That's fine. I'm liking where the Anomaly class is right now, especially because Remiel does bring up some of these other units, especially for, Anomaly Team 1 and then Anomaly Team 2 can, be filled with your other premium units. The balance is actually really good, at least for now. Then supports don't really change much at the top end. Don't really change much. But shout outs to Rina and Nekomata. They deserve their spots. I don't know if 0.5 is where I want to put her specifically right now, especially at the M0, but I'll respect it. I'll respect it. Very much deserved. Fair. It's a fair placement. I would have put her at like the top of tier 1, but tier 0.5 is fine. I'm okay with it. Not the most offensive list, actually. But the change logs, bro, what the hell are you saying here, man? Like, what the hell did you say here? What the hell are you saying here? My reading comprehension skill ain't that good, but like, come on. Come on, dude. In any case, it's like when you get the right answer, it's like in your class, you come up with the right math answer, but your work is wrong. Like, that's my tier list review. Let me know what you guys think of the current content, of the current climate of Zenless Zone Zero down in the comments below. Make sure to check out more of our live streams here over on YouTube and on Twitch. When you nod your head yes, but you wanna say, or sorry, when you nod your, yeah, but when you nod your head yes, and you wanna say no, what do you mean? What do you mean?